Hey everyone, it's been a minute. Actually, it's been 2 years. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So I'm back, and it feels a bit strange and familiar to be talking to a camera again. I know many of you have been messaging and asking when I'll return to this channel. And honestly, I wasn't really sure if I would. When I moved to London for my master's degree, stepping away from YouTube wasn't the plan at all. In fact, I was thinking I have so many different content ideas to vlog my time as a student, when I'm traveling, the day-to-day life, moving and documenting all of that. But stepping away sort of just happened. I was a bit overwhelmed by this new chapter, moving to a new country, starting a really intense academic program, and building a life from scratch in a city that I had always dreamed of living in. This came with some expectations, not externally, but a lot internally. I felt this overwhelming urge to just live it, to experience life in London not as content to be captured, but as a life to be absorbed into completely, to get lost in the winding streets without worrying about having to take out my phone and documenting every second of it, and to have conversations that weren't mentally edited just to be shared online later. What no one really prepares you for when moving abroad to a big city are the everyday challenges that suddenly become so much more complicated. Figuring out how to register with a GP, deciphering council tax bills, and learning the unspoken rules of the tube, which is to stand on the right and walk on the left. Simple tasks became puzzles to solve. Taking care of yourself takes on an entire new definition. Suddenly, you're not just responsible for work and school, but for nourishing yourself, both physically and mentally, while creating a new routine, while creating a new home. And the thing is, for most of us from Punjabi backgrounds, where family is so central in day-to-day life, this newfound freedom can feel both liberating and disorienting at the same time. The absence of that familiar support network, a family member to call when any issue pops up, it leaves a space that isn't easily filled. But in the midst of these challenges, something beautiful happened. I found my people in London. Incredible ones, smart ones, fun ones, adventurous ones, and like-minded ones. These brilliant people became my London family. Friends who understood the unique experience of creating a life away from home, celebrated my successes with me, and especially those who showed up on difficult days. These relationships weren't just about having fun, although there was tons of that. These friends were lifelines. People who guided me through university systems I didn't understand, from getting assimilated into British culture and creating a little expat world of our own. And they were always there to listen to the homesickness and a bit of the adjustment issues that come up along the way. I'm sure those of you who have lived away from home understand the importance of having these types of friendships. There's a special bond that forms between people that are going through the exact same thing. A mutual understanding that doesn't really need an explanation. And I think it comes down to a shared experience of straddling multiple worlds and identities simultaneously. When I first moved to London, I thought my entire experience would be revolving around academics and then immediately after finding a job in the corporate world. But in the midst of that, I found myself drawn to the rich and decades-long history of Punjabis in the UK. I really appreciated the preservation of our history and the people that are involved in keeping that alive. There are Punjabi tour guides that take you through London and explain all of the Punjabi history across the city. There are galleries and exhibitions that hold paintings, photos, and archives of the Punjabi community. I feel like the depth and the level of preservation that Punjabis are doing in the UK towards our culture and our religion is something I've never experienced before. And I was fortunate enough to be in the city, see all of it, and experience all of it, and read all of it. My time in London has fortunately allowed me to become so much closer to my roots. I found myself accessing parts of our culture that I didn't think existed. And that doesn't just go for documenting our stories as a diaspora, but also artistically. The UK is home to incredible artists that are able to bring a wonderful fusion of Western and Punjabi culture together to create the next generation of artists. And then on the flip side, you also have legends like Dildar Hussain perform live in intimate venues, which I was really fortunate to see. These experiences are invaluable. They connected me to a longer and deeper story than my own, to a Punjabi diaspora that's been creating, reinventing, and preserving cultural identity in this country generations before I arrived. And then there was my master's program, which was incredibly demanding. I was expecting this, and I was mentally prepared for it as well. Even though it was demanding, I did very much enjoy it. It was very intense, a year-long master's program. I learned a lot, surrounded by people from literally everywhere in the world. My professors were incredible, and being on the LSE campus itself was very inspiring. You're surrounded by people that have this superhuman drive to change the world, to leave an impact, that cultivate very unique ideas and have a mission in their life. And that energy just bounces onto you, and you're just inspired yourself. It was the kind of academic rigor that consumes your mind completely. I was learning so much, being challenged in different ways I never expected, and I definitely wouldn't have had it any other way. And then came graduation.
Sahar Kaur Man.
And especially for me, it was quite a big one because I had missed my high school graduation. I was writing midterms at that time in university. I missed my bachelor's graduation because it was COVID that year and we didn't have a proper ceremony. And this is the only graduation ceremony that I have ever attended of my own. My mom, my dad, my brothers flew down and we had a great time. They got to meet all my friends and we celebrated big time. But after all that fun, the Christmas holidays went by, I came back to London and I was sat on my desk one day and I was like, now what? In my mind, I had achieved this thing that I had worked so hard for, and I had tunnel vision towards it that I want to get my master's degree. I want to go to LSE. I want to finish this. And then all of a sudden my mind just went blank. What am I going to do after this? And instead of clarity, I realized I had a lot more questions than answers. Questions about my path forward, my purpose, and where I actually belonged. For so many of us in the Punjabi diaspora, this question holds a lot of weight. The responsibility of making the most of the opportunities that our parents and grandparents worked really, really hard for. The pressure to succeed, not just for ourselves, but for our entire community. And yet there is a powerful solidarity that we're all walking a similar path, not knowing where we're going to end up. The only thing on our minds is, how can I give back to my family? How can I make this all worth it? And those are heavy questions, and they're not going to be answered in one night. I think all these questions allowed me to rediscover the value of solitude, intentional solitude. I had time alone to sit with some difficult questions. I had space to distinguish between my own voice and the voices I had internalized from family, culture, and social media. And the irony wasn't lost on me as someone who had built a platform to share perspectives on cultural identity and mental health. But I needed to step away from that very platform to work on my own next chapter and to figure out who I was beyond the narratives that I had created. Through it all, those friendships I had created had built my foundation. The people who reminded me of my strengths when I forgot them, who pushed me towards opportunities I might have let pass by, who believed in my vision before I could fully articulate it myself. And your messages throughout this time meant a lot more than you know. They reminded me that the conversations we had on this channel really mattered. That sharing our authentic journeys, messy and as unresolved as they may be, creates a connection in a world that deeply needs it. So here I am returning to YouTube because I've realized that growth is not linear, that uncertainty isn't something to overcome, but something to embrace. That uncertainty is something you can learn from. It's asking and speaking for internal growth. That sometimes the most valuable insights come from sitting in the uncomfortable space between certainties. The past few years in London, fulfilling that dream, have taught me that life expands in proportion to our willingness to embrace the unknown, to step away from the pressure of constant documentation, and to just be present for both the beautiful and difficult moments. London has become home in more ways than I expected. Not because it was perfect and easy, because trust me, it was not. But it was the place where I confronted these questions, where I found solitude and deep friendship. And especially because it's where I learned that embracing uncertainty is much braver than clinging on to outdated certainties. I've learned that authentic connection comes from honesty, from acknowledging that we're all figuring it out as we go, that none of us have perfect answers, and that's okay. If you're out there feeling caught between cultures, navigating the practical and emotional questions of making a life abroad, you're not alone. The now what question isn't a sign that you've done something wrong. It's an invitation to go deeper. So that's where I've been. And I'm curious to know, where have you been? What questions are you sitting with? What spaces between are you navigating? Because that's what this channel has always been about, figuring it out together, one conversation at a time. It's good to be back. Yay!